Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the war room deep under the Pentagon. The clock on the wall showed 2:32 in the afternoon. He was drinking his third cup of coffee when the alarm started screaming. "Sir, we have contacts," shouted Lieutenant Amy Carter from her station. Her voice was high and tight with fear. "Hundreds of them coming down through the atmosphere." Jake put down his coffee cup and walked to the big screen that covered the entire wall. Red dots filled the display like angry. The dots moved fast, faster than any human aircraft could fly. "Where did they come from?" Jake asked. "Nowhere, sir. They just appeared." 1 second the sky was empty, the next second they were there. Colonel Ben Hughes ran into the room. His uniform was wrinkled and his hair was messy. "Jake, you need to see this? They're broadcasting on every radio and TV channel on Earth." The main screen changed to show a tall, thin creature with gray skin and large black eyes. It spoke in perfect English, but its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "People of Earth, I am Commander Veltar of the Corvani Empire. Your world is now under our control. Surrender immediately or face total destruction. You have no weapons that can harm us. You have no defenses that can stop us. Submit now and some of you may live." The message ended and the screen went back to showing the red dots. There were more of them now. They spread out over every major city on Earth. "How many ships?" Jake asked. 843. "Sir, they're positioning themselves over New York, London, Paris, Tokyo, Moscow, Beijing, and every other major city." Jake picked up the red phone that connected him directly to the president. "Mr. President, we have a situation." "I can see that, Admiral. The whole world can see that. What are our options?" Jake looked around the room at his staff. They all looked scared. "Sir, we need to activate Protocol 7. There was silence on the phone for a long moment. "Are you sure, Admiral?" "Once we do that, there's no going back." "Yes, sir." "This is exactly what we trained for." "Very well. Protocol 7 is authorized." "God help us all." Jake hung up the phone and turned to his staff. "You heard the man? Activate Protocol 7. All stations, all commands, all units." "This is not a drill." Amy Carter's fingers flew over her keyboard. "Sir, activating Protocol 7 now." All units are responding. The big screen changed again. Now it showed a map of the world, but this map was different from any normal map. It showed hidden bases, secret weapons, and defensive systems that most people didn't know existed. "Launch all fighters," Jake ordered. "Surface-to-air missiles are hot, energy weapons online." "Sir, the aliens are beginning their attack runs," Ben reported. "They're targeting military bases and government buildings." Through the cameras placed around Washington, they watched as the alien ships fired beams of bright blue light. Where the beams hit, buildings simply disappeared. They didn't explode or catch fire. They just turned to dust and blew away in the wind. The Washington Monument vanished in a flash of light. The Capitol building was there 1 second and gone the next. But Jake wasn't worried. Those buildings were empty. Everyone important was already in the bunkers. "Falcon Squadron, this is Control," Amy spoke into her headset. "You are cleared to engage the enemy." Captain Lisa Harper's voice came back over the radio. "Control, this is Falcon 1. I see them, moving to attack position." On the screen, they watched as fighter jets rose from hidden bases all over the world. But these weren't normal jets. They moved too fast and turned too sharp for any known aircraft. "Sir, the aliens are following the pattern exactly," Ben said. He was looking at another screen that showed predicted enemy movements. "They're doing exactly what the computer said they would do." Jake smiled for the first time since the alarm started. "Of course they are. They always do." The alien ships continued their attack. More famous buildings disappeared. The Eiffel Tower in Paris, Big Ben in London, the Statue of Liberty in New York, but for every building that vanished, 10 missiles shot up from the ground. The alien ships tried to dodge the missiles, but they couldn't. The missiles followed them, turning and twisting through the air like hunting dogs chasing rabbits. "Sir, we're getting reports from all around the world," Amy said. "Our weapons are hitting their targets, The alien ships are taking damage. Jake watched the red dots on his screen. Some of them were flashing now, which meant they were damaged. Others were starting to slow down. "Time check," Jake called out. "Sir, the attack began 8 minutes ago." "Good, right on schedule." At exactly 10 minutes after the attack began, something amazing happened. Every alien ship in the sky stopped moving. They didn't crash or explode. They just hung in the air like someone had turned off a switch. "Sir, all enemy ships have stopped," Amy reported. Her voice was full of wonder. "They're not responding to any commands. They're just floating there." Jake picked up the red phone. "Again, Mr. President, Phase 1 is complete. All enemy ships are neutralized." "Excellent work, Admiral." "How long until Phase 2? Jake looked at the clock. "Phase 2 begins in 6 hours, sir. We'll be ready." He hung up the phone and looked around the room. His staff was staring at him with wide eyes. "Sir," Ben said slowly, "how did we know exactly what they were going to do?" Jake smiled again. "Because this isn't the first time we've met the Corvani Empire. We've been waiting for them for 30 years. Dr. Kevin Price walked into the United Nations building in New York. The building was one of the few that hadn't been hit during the alien attack. Outside the windows, people could see the alien ships hanging motionless in the sky like giant metal clouds. The emergency meeting room was packed with leaders from every country on Earth. Presidents, prime ministers, and generals sat at the long tables. Their faces showed fear, confusion, and anger. Kevin carried a thick folder full of papers and photographs. He had waited 30 years to open this folder. Now the time had finally come. "Ladies and gentlemen," Kevin said as he stood at the front of the room, "what happened yesterday was not our first meeting with aliens. It was our second." The room erupted in angry voices. People shouted questions and demands for answers. Kevin waited for them to quiet down. "In 1994, an alien ship crashed in the Australian desert. The ship was damaged and the pilot was dying. We found him 3 days after the crash." Kevin opened his folder and pulled out a photograph. It showed a thin, gray creature lying on a hospital bed. Tubes and wires were connected to its body. "This is Zekal of the Corvani Empire. He lived for 6 weeks after we found him. During that time, he told us everything." Commander Steve Walsh, a tall man in a military uniform, stood up next. "The alien told us about his empire. They had conquered 47 worlds using the same plan every time. First, they studied the target world for many years. Then they attack with overwhelming force. Most worlds surrender immediately." Steve clicked a button and a hologram appeared in the air above the table. It showed a map of the galaxy with red dots marking conquered worlds. "The Corvani Empire has been expanding for over 1,000 years. They pick worlds with valuable resources or strategic locations. Earth was next on their list." Agent Claire Foster, a woman with short black hair, took over the presentation. "Zekal gave us access codes to their communication systems. For 30 years, we've been listening to their messages, learning their language, and studying their technology." She clicked another button and the hologram changed to show alien text and symbols. "We learned everything about them. Their military tactics, their weapons, their weaknesses. Most importantly, we learned exactly when they planned to attack Earth." The room was completely silent now. Everyone was staring at the hologram. "We also learned that they always send the same type of invasion force. 800 ships attacking at the same time, targeting the same types of buildings. They've used this exact plan 47 times." Dr. Patricia Wells, head of the Secret Alien Technology Division, stood up. She was an older woman with gray hair and thick glasses. "We didn't just learn about their technology, we stole it. The crashed ship gave us everything we needed to understand how their weapons and engines work." Patricia clicked her remote and the hologram showed the inside of a hidden laboratory. Scientists in white coats were working on strange-looking machines. "We built secret research facilities all over the world. Every major country participated. We reverse-engineered their technology and made it better. The hologram changed again to show underground factories. Robot arms were building sleek aircraft that looked nothing like normal human planes. Those fighter jets you saw yesterday, they use alien engines and human weapons. They're twice as fast as anything the Corvani have. General Richard Hayes, an old soldier with medals covering his chest, spoke next. We've been preparing for this war for 30 years. Every conflict you've seen in the last 3 decades was actually a training exercise. The room erupted again. Leaders shouted and argued. Some looked angry, others looked amazed. The Gulf War, the conflicts in Bosnia, Afghanistan, Iraq, they were all preparation for fighting the Corvani. We tested our weapons, trained our soldiers, and practiced working together. Richard showed pictures of military exercises that looked like science fiction movies. We also built the largest intelligence network in human history. We have agents in every major city, secret bases on every continent, and weapons hidden everywhere. Director Paul Miller, head of the Global Defense Network, took over the presentation. The defense systems you saw yesterday have been in place for 20 years. Hidden missile batteries, underground bunkers, camouflaged weapon platforms. The hologram showed a cutaway view of a city. Below the streets were tunnels, bunkers, and weapon systems that most people never knew existed. We turned every major city on Earth into a fortress. The Corvani thought they were attacking helpless targets. Instead, they flew into the most advanced defense network ever built. Captain Diana Ross, a pilot who had fought in the battle, stood up. Sir, permission to speak? Paul nodded. I flew one of the new fighters yesterday. The alien ships couldn't touch us. Their weapons are designed to fight primitive aircraft. Our ships are faster, more maneuverable, and better armed than anything they've ever faced. Diana smiled. It wasn't even a fair fight. Kevin took control of the presentation again. The ships hanging over our cities right now are completely under our control. We've taken over their computer systems using the access codes Zekel gave. US 30 years ago? He clicked his remote and the hologram showed the interior of an alien ship. Human technicians were working at control panels covered with strange symbols. We're downloading everything. Star maps, military plans, technology designs, and the locations of every Corvani base in the galaxy. The room was quiet again. The world. Leaders were trying to understand what they had just learned. President Nathan Cross of the United States stood up. Dr. Price, are you telling us that humanity has been preparing for this war for 30 years? Yes, Mr. President, and we're ready. For the next phase. What is the next phase? Kevin smiled. We're going to end the Corvani Empire forever. He clicked his remote one last time. The hologram showed hundreds of spacecraft rising from hidden bases around the world. But these ships didn't look human. They were sleek and organic, like living creatures made of metal. In 6 hours, the human fleet will depart for Corvani space. We're not just defending Earth anymore. We're going on the attack. The world leaders sat in stunned silence. In one day, they had learned that humanity was not alone in the universe, that aliens had tried to conquer Earth, and that their own governments had been preparing for this war for 3 decades. The age of human isolation is over, Kevin said. Today, we become a spacefaring civilization, and the Corvani Empire will be our first conquest. Admiral Jane Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, the flagship of Earth's new space fleet. Through the large windows, she could see dozens of other ships preparing for launch. These ships looked nothing like the space shuttles people were used to seeing. They were smooth and curved, like dolphins made of metal and glass. Admiral, all ships report ready for departure, said Captain Ron Clark, her second in command. Jane nodded. She had trained for this moment for 15 years, ever since she learned about the secret space program. Signal the fleet. We launch in 10 minutes. The ships rose from hidden bases all over Earth. Some came up from underground tunnels in Nevada. Others emerged from beneath the ocean floor. A few lifted off from disguised facilities that looked like ordinary warehouses. Jane's ship used technology that was part human engineering and part alien science. The engines didn't burn the fuel like rockets. Instead, they bent space itself, allowing the ship to move faster than light. "Jump coordinates locked in," reported Lieutenant Gary Foster at the navigation station. "We'll arrive in the Corvani home system in 36 hours. "Very good. Take us out." The stars outside the windows suddenly stretched into long lines of light. The ship was moving so fast that normal space couldn't keep up. Jane felt a strange tingling sensation as the alien technology interfaced with her nervous system, allowing her to control the ship with her thoughts. Colonel Mike Torres sat in the cargo bay with his soldiers. They wore armor that was black as night and moved like a second skin. The armor included both human computers and alien biotechnology. Each soldier could run faster, jump higher, and hit harder than any normal human. "Listen up," Mike said to his men. "We've trained for this. Mission for 10 years? The Corvani think humans are weak and primitive. We're going to show them how wrong they are." The soldiers checked their weapons. The rifles fired bullets made from materials that didn't exist in nature. Each bullet could punch through the strongest armor the aliens possessed. "Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth," Mike continued. "Intelligence reports say the Corvani have enslaved dozens of other species. And those people have been waiting centuries for someone to free them." Private Danny Green raised his hand. "Sir, what if there are more of them than we expected?" Mike smiled. "Then we kill more aliens." On the bridge, Jane received reports from the other ships in the fleet. Captain Lisa Murphy commanded the battleship Devastator. Commander Bill Watson led a squadron of fast attack ships. Captain Carl Jones was in charge of the troop transports. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command," said Lieutenant Amy Roberts at the communications station. "Put it on screen." President Nathan Cross appeared on the main display. He was sitting in the Oval Office, but Jane could see that he was in one of the deep underground bunkers. "Admiral Sullivan, you are authorized to use any means necessary to end the Corvani threat. The entire world is watching. Make us proud." "We will, Mr. President. Earth's children are coming home." The fleet traveled through space for 36 hours. During that time, the crews prepared for battle. Engineers checked weapon systems. Soldiers practiced assault techniques. Pilots ran simulation after simulation. Jane spent most of her time studying intelligence reports about the Corvani home system. The aliens had 7 planets, but only 3 were inhabited. The main planet, Corvin Prime, had a population of 12 billion. "They've never been attacked before," Jane said to Ron. "Their defenses are designed to keep rebellions down, not to fight off an invasion. That's going to be their mistake," Ron replied. When the fleet arrived at the edge of the Corvani system, Jane was amazed by what she saw. The alien planets were surrounded by massive space stations. Thousands of ships moved between the planets like ants carrying food to their nest. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Gary Foster. "Look at the size of those orbital platforms." The Corvani had built cities in space. Each platform was the size of a small moon and housed millions of people. They were supposed to be impregnable fortresses. "Admiral, we're being scanned," reported Amy Roberts. "The Corvani are trying to identify our ships." "Let them look," signaled the fleet. "Attack Formation Alpha, target the orbital defenses first." The human ships spread out and began their approach. Jane had studied the Corvani defensive systems for years. She knew exactly where their weapons were located and how they operated. "Fire," she commanded. The human ships opened fire with weapons that the Corvani had never seen before. Beams of pure energy lanced out from the Earth vessels. Where they hit the alien platforms, metal melted like ice in the sun. The Corvani tried to fight back, but their weapons couldn't lock onto the human ships. Earth's vessels were too fast and too maneuverable. They danced between the alien weapon beams like fighters avoiding slow punches. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Corvani Command Center," Amy reported. "Let's hear it." A Corvani appeared on screen. This one was older than the others Jane had seen, with scars covering his gray face. "Unknown vessels, you are attacking the Corvani Empire. Withdraw immediately or face total destruction," Jane smiled. This is Admiral Jane Sullivan of the Terran Federation. You attacked our world. Now we're returning the favor. Surrender, and we might let some of you live." The alien's eyes grew wide. "Impossible. You are a primitive species. You have no weapons that can harm us. Watch and learn." Jane gave the signal, and the human fleet unleashed its full firepower. The orbital platforms that had protected the Corvani for centuries began to explode. Pieces of metal and debris rained down on the planet below. Colonel Mike Torres and his soldiers launched from the troop transports in small attack craft. They flew through the debris field like sharks swimming through bloody water. "Colonel, you have a clear path to the surface," Jane reported over the radio. "Copy that, Admiral. Beginning ground assault now." Mike's soldiers landed in the capital city of Corven Prime. The buildings were tall and twisted like frozen screens reaching toward the sky. Alien civilians ran through the streets in panic. The human soldiers moved through the city like ghosts. Their armor made them nearly invisible, and their weapons were silent. Corvani police and soldiers tried to stop them, but they might as well have been fighting shadows. "Target the government center," Mike ordered his men. "We need to capture their leaders alive." Within 6 hours, the mighty Corvani home system was under human control. The orbital platforms were destroyed. The planetary defenses were offline. And Colonel Mike Torres was standing in the Corvani throne room with his rifle pointed at the Emperor. Jane received surrender messages from Corvani commanders all over the system. The species that had conquered 47 worlds had been defeated in a single day. "Admiral," Amy reported, "we're receiving transmissions from 17 other Corvani worlds. They're all asking for our surrender terms." Jane smiled. The war was just beginning. Emperor Zaxthel stood in his throne room on Corven Prime. Through the tall windows, he could see smoke rising from his capital city. Human soldiers moved through his palace like deadly spirits. His guards lay dead on the marble floor. "Colonel." Mike Torres walked into the throne room with his rifle ready. His black armor made him look like death itself. Behind him came 12 more human soldiers, their faces hidden behind dark helmets. "Your Imperial Majesty," Mike said with mock respect. "I'm Colonel Mike Torres of the Terran Federation. You're under arrest for crimes against every living being in this galaxy." Zaxthel's 4 arms shook with rage. "You dare enter my sacred palace? I am the ruler of 47 worlds. I command fleets that could destroy your pathetic planet." Mike laughed. "Your fleets are space junk now? Your empire is finished." Captain Eric Stone stood on the bridge of the captured Corvani dreadnought Devastator. The alien ship was 3 times larger than any human vessel, but it was now crewed entirely by Earth forces. Human technicians had replaced the alien control systems with Earth technology. "Sir, we're receiving surrender signals from the Corvani." "Third Fleet," reported Lieutenant Sandra Bell. Eric looked at the tactical display. Red dots showed the positions of hundreds of alien ships. All of them had stopped fighting and were broadcasting surrender codes. "Accept their surrender. Have them power down weapons and prepare to be boarded." The war was spreading across the galaxy faster than anyone had expected. Human forces appeared simultaneously at 17 different Corvani worlds. Each attack was perfectly coordinated, targeting military bases and government centers with surgical precision. Commander Grace Turner led the diplomatic mission to Zephyr 7, a world the Corvani had conquered 200 years ago. The native species, called the Vector, had blue skin and 6 arms. They lived in underground cities to hide from their alien masters. "We are humans from the planet Earth," Grace announced over the planetary communication system. "The Corvani Empire is finished. You are free." At first, the Vector didn't believe her. They had lived as slaves for so long that freedom seemed impossible. But when they saw human ships destroying Corvani facilities, they began to hope. Thousands of Vector emerged from their underground hiding places. They stood in the streets of their ruined cities and cheered as human soldiers marched past. Dr. Ryan Campbell worked in the captured Corvani archives on their homeworld. The aliens had kept detailed records of every world they had conquered, every species they had enslaved, and every crime they had committed. My God, Ryan said to his assistant, look at this. On his computer screen was a list of the species the Corvani had completely wiped out. 15 different civilizations had been destroyed simply because they refused to surrender. They didn't just conquer worlds, Ryan continued. They committed genocide on a galactic scale. The human forces showed no mercy to Corvani military units that continued to fight. Admiral Tony Martinez commanded the fleet that surrounded the Corvani Military Academy on Corvin Beta. The planet was home to their elite officer training program. This is Admiral Martinez to all Corvani forces on Corvin Beta. You have 30 minutes to surrender. After that, we will destroy your planet. The Corvani military commander, General Velkar, was an old warrior who had led the conquest of 12 worlds. He refused to believe that his mighty empire could be defeated by a species his people considered primitive. We will never surrender. To inferior beings, Velkar broadcast back, the Corvani Empire has stood for 1,000 years. It will not fall to you. Tony looked at his watch. After exactly 30 minutes, he gave the order, all ships open fire. Turn that planet into a rock? The human fleet unleashed enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The surface of Corvan Beta became a sea of molten rock. Every military installation, every training facility, and every Corvani soldier on the planet was vaporized in minutes. The destruction of Corvan Beta sent a message across the galaxy. Any Corvani force that continued to fight would be completely destroyed. Surrender was the only option. On Earth, President Nathan Cross addressed the world from the Oval Office. Behind him, through the windows, people could see the captured alien ships that still hung motionless over major cities. My fellow humans, Cross began. 6 weeks ago, aliens tried to conquer our world. Today we have conquered theirs. The Corvani Empire, which has terrorized the galaxy for 1,000 years, has surrendered unconditionally. The president's words were broadcast to every human on Earth and every human ship in space. In cities around the world, people celebrated in the streets. Earth had gone from being a target for conquest to being the dominant power in this region of the galaxy. But our work is not finished, Cross continued. We have found evidence that the Corvani enslaved dozens of other species. We have a moral duty to free those people and help them rebuild their civilizations. Commander Helen Burke oversaw the liberation of the slave camps on Corvan 4. The planet was a mining world where the Corvani had forced conquered species to work in horrible conditions. Millions of beings from 20 different worlds had died. In those mines, the survivors were barely alive when human forces found them. Many had been worked nearly to death. Others had been tortured for trying to escape. All of them had given up hope of ever being free. You're safe now, Helen told a group of rescued slaves. The Corvani will never hurt you again. A creature with purple skin and large eyes looked up at her. Are you really from the planet that defeated the Empire? Yes, we're from Earth. The alien creature began to cry. We prayed to our gods for someone to save us. They sent you. The final battle of the war took place in the Corvan system itself. A group of die-hard Corvani fanatics had barricaded themselves in the Imperial fortress on the planet's largest moon. They had taken thousands of human prisoners and threatened to kill them all. Captain Jordan Bell led the assault team that stormed the fortress. His soldiers moved through the alien structure room by room, fighting desperate Corvani who preferred death to surrender. Colonel Torres, this is Captain Bell. We've reached the prison levels. The human prisoners are alive, but in bad shape. Copy that, Captain. Get our people out of there. The rescue took 6 hours. When it was over, the last organized Corvani resistance had been eliminated. The war was finally over. Emperor Zaxthel sat in a human prison cell on his own homeworld. Through the small window, he could see human ships patrolling the skies that had once belonged to him. His 1,000-year empire had been destroyed in less than 2 months. A human officer came to his cell. It was Admiral Jane Sullivan, the commander who had led the first attack on his homeworld. Your Majesty, Jane said, you're going to stand trial for war crimes. The evidence against you fills an entire building. Zaxthel looked at her with hatred in his black eyes. You may have won this war, human, but others will come. There are empires in this galaxy that make mine look like children playing with toys. Jane smiled. Let them come. Earth is ready. Ambassador Rachel Wells stood before the great assembly hall on the planet. New Hope, representatives from 47 different worlds, sat in seats arranged in a giant circle. These were the species that had been enslaved by the Corvani Empire. For hundreds of years, the Vector delegation had blue skin and 6 arms. The Morden were tall and thin with silver hair. The Krell looked like walking trees with glowing eyes. Each species was different, but they all shared one thing: they were finally free. Friends, Rachel began, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall, 6 months ago, most of our worlds lived under the boot of the Corvani Empire. Today, we gather as equals to build something new. The translator devices allowed every species to understand her words. Rachel could see hope in their alien faces, but also fear. They had been slaves for so long that freedom felt strange and dangerous. The Terran Federation does not seek to replace the Corvani as your masters. We offer partnership, not domination. Trade agreements, not tribute demands. Cultural exchange, not cultural destruction. A Vector representative stood up. His name was Thek Volume, and he had been a resistance leader during the occupation. Ambassador Wells, your words are kind. But how do we know humans will keep their promises? The Corvani also spoke of peace when they first arrived at our worlds. Rachel nodded. A fair question. The difference is that Earth fought to free you, not to conquer you. We spent 30 years preparing for this war, not to build an empire, but to end one. Director Alex Parker was working on the former Corvani world of Grimhold. The planet had been strip-mined for rare metals until it looked like a wounded moon. Huge machines had torn open the surface, leaving deep scars in the rock. How long will it take to fix this? Asked Dr. Linda Foster, the head of the restoration project. Alex looked at the reports on his tablet. With human technology and help from the other Federation worlds, maybe 50 years. The Corvani did a lot of damage. Human engineers were working alongside alien scientists to develop new ways to heal damaged planets. They had already started growing new forests on worlds where the Corvani had cut down every tree. Oceans were being cleaned of pollution that had poisoned them for centuries. Captain Jordan Bell commanded one of the new patrol fleets that kept peace in Federation space. His ship, the USS Guardian, was built using the best technology from a dozen different species. The hull was made from Krell biometal that could repair itself. The engines used Vector quantum physics. The weapon systems combined human engineering with modern energy technology. Captain, we're receiving a distress call from the Epsilon colony, reported Lieutenant Gary Adams at the communications station. What's the situation? Pirates, sir. A group of former Corvani military officers have been raiding Federation shipping lanes. Jordan smiled grimly. Set course for Epsilon. It's time to remind these pirates that the galaxy has new guardians. The patrol ship jumped to hyperspace, crossing dozens of light years in minutes. When they arrived at Epsilon Colony, they found 3 Corvani ships attacking a convoy of refugee transports. This is Captain Bell of the Terran Federation. You are attacking innocent civilians. Stand down immediately. The lead pirate ship responded with weapons fire. Jordan's ship was hit, but the biometal hull absorbed the damage and began repairing itself immediately. All weapons return fire. Show them what Federation justice looks like. The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. 2 pirate ships were destroyed and the 3rd surrendered. The convoy was safe on Earth. President Nathan Cross was meeting with the leaders of the new Terran Federation. The organization now included over 30 worlds and was growing every day. Mr. President, said General Patricia Davis, our intelligence networks have detected 3 other aggressive empires in nearby sectors. They're all watching to see how we handle our new responsibilities. Cross looked at the star map that covered one wall of the Situation Room. Red areas showed hostile empires. Blue areas showed Federation space. Green areas showed neutral worlds that might join them. What are their capabilities? The Hive Collective controls 60 worlds and uses biological weapons. The machine dominion has converted entire planets into computer cores. The shadow hegemony. We don't know much about them, but they've destroyed every exploration ship that entered their space, Cross nodded. Double our shipbuilding programs. If these empires want to fight, we'll give them one they'll never forget. The surviving Corvani faced different fates depending on their actions during the war. Those who had committed war crimes were put on trial. Many were executed. Others received long prison sentences, but Corvani, who had opposed their empire's actions, were offered a different choice. They could become citizens of the Terran Federation and help repair the damage their people had caused. Commander Velthara had been a Corvani naval officer who secretly helped human intelligence agents during the war. Now she wore a Federation uniform and commanded a mixed crew of humans and reformed Corvani. Captain Wells, she said to the human officer beside her, long-range sensors are detecting unknown ships entering our space. Captain Danny Wells looked at the display. How many? Over 1,000, sir. They're not broadcasting identification codes. Danny activated the ship's alert system. Battle stations, send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them we have company. The unknown ships were long and sleek, painted black as deep space. They moved in perfect formation, like a school of mechanical fish swimming through the stars. Sir. We're receiving a transmission, reported the communications officer. Put it on screen. A creature appeared that looked nothing like any species they had encountered before. It had multiple heads, each one speaking in perfect synchronization. We are the Hive Collective. This sector now belongs to us. All sentient life will be absorbed or destroyed. Resistance is futile. Danny looked at Velthara. The former Corvani officer's face showed the same determination he felt. Not today, Danny said. This is Federation space. And we don't give up without a fight. The new war began with that single transmission, but the galaxy was different now. Where once dozens of species had stood alone against aggressive empires, now they stood together. The Terran Federation had given them something the universe hadn't seen in centuries: hope.